99% of the people you call could not do what you do. Right. So that alone should instill some pretty good kind of confidence. Like, man, okay, I'm doing something that not a lot of people can do. Maybe I can't crunch numbers or run a company, but I can generate new business, right?
The Mega Revenue Show, now brought to you by Insurance X-Date. Find more leads, close more biz. Big fans over here. Go check out Rob and the guys over at Insurance X-Date. They have a map that shows what data they have in what states. So if you're not sure about whether, hey, is this going to work for me? I think that's where they get most of their data, or close to. I don't know how it all works behind the scenes, but I think they're in like 40 something states. So if you want to see if they have the data that you need in your state for what you're chasing, go check it out. Can't recommend them enough. As Micah said last episode, I think this is the key takeaway here, is that Insurance X-Date is like oxygen. If you're a prospecting producer out there pounding pavement and you want to be able to qualify and cut out steps of the process and be able to know who to call, how to get a hold of them, and exactly when to call them, because you can see their renewal date, X date, hence the name, then you need to check out insurancexdate.com.
Ditto, everything you just said. Yeah, use it every day, guys. And I couldn't.
That was right off the dome. That was an uncaffeinated right off the dome. That's how you know.
That was good. That was really good.
Thanks. So I'm going to, per usual, just kind of turn this over to you. I'm going to caffeinate in the background while you do your thing. Today, we're going to talk about, I don't know what we're going to title it, but it's basically all things cold calling, maybe cold calling 101, or like the 3 key pillars of cold calling. We were talking yesterday, and there's basically like 3 things that have popped up or that we were talking about that we really want to drive home in regards to cold calling that are kind of like the foundation of being successful at cold calling. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and you take the ball and run with it.
It's funny. If you guys haven't checked out our YouTube channel, go look at that, because I started putting some cold calls, live cold calls on there like once a week. The first 2 were like just a compilation of several calls. And then what I've started doing is kind of putting one call at a time for about, calls that I actually engage in a conversation with someone on. Anyways, they've had some good feedback. And one of the things that I think is interesting if you watch those is that it should give you confidence, because I talk a lot about cold calling. I've written a lot of business, all of it basically from cold calling. And if you listen to me or watch me on the video, you'll see that I'm nothing special. It's really boring. I'm not like a silver tongue guy out there, smooth talker. And so hopefully it instills confidence in you that if I can do it, then you can too. And I've told this story before, but man, I was the kid literally who was like, I remember my family didn't have a ton of money. My dad had a job, supported 4 kids, but was a mailman, right? And so we were always lower middle class, I guess you could say, but I had to watch a lot of our money. And I remember in like 8th grade, we were trying to play our town, grew up in a small town. We'd always done flag football, and I played football, my whole life. In 8th grade, we switched to Pop Warner for the first time, and we were converting to Pop Warner. And so there was a lot bigger of a cost. I think it was going to be like $150, and my mom just couldn't afford it. And they had a fundraiser where you had to go sell like Sports Illustrated subscriptions, and all you had to sell was like 3 or 4. Go up to your family and friends, go to people at church, whatever, get them to sign, and boom, you're paid for. Well, I was the kid who literally, I didn't even make an attempt to even bring it up to people. Like, didn't even try, just because, not because I didn't love football. I mean, I was actually pretty good at that point in my life, but I was just too afraid. So that was me. That is me. That's just who I was. Didn't want to sell things to people. Coming out of college, that's the whole reason I didn't get into insurance for about 3 years out of college, is I was afraid to sell. I had an offer, and I was like, I don't really want to sell insurance. I say all that to say, go watch the videos, but I've learned a lot over the years. And one thing I've learned, and that's what this episode is really going to be about, is various pillars and things. And, there's probably no like succinct framework we'll follow here, but there is a couple things that I want to discuss. One is, mindset, to me, honestly, is like the base of everything. And I know it sounds cheesy, and it's like, how does that really help me? But I do honestly think if your mind isn't right, then everything else is going to be off, right? So then if I look at mindset's the base, and I'll go back in and talk more about it, but then you got, I think, tonality and just how you say things, and that is really important too. But If your mindset's jacked up, well, then aren't you going to say things differently? Probably, right? If you're afraid, you're going to talk quicker. You're going to, say things out of a fear-based mindset, and then your words are probably going to change, right? And probably be less impactful or important. And words are the least important, I think. Honestly, I think if you have the right mindset and the right tonality, and you just put in the reps and actually put in the effort, it doesn't really matter what you say. Right. And that's kind of how this episode came to be, because since I've been putting up these videos on YouTube, you get a lot of people that send you messages or whatever you talk to over a week. It's just funny because like one of the guys on YouTube was telling me, or he put a comment out there about how he makes cold calls. He leads with some really specific information, and that works great for him. And then another guy, a younger guy, was telling me he's been crushing it. I asked, hey, what are you doing on cold calls? And he said, I want the only objection to be time. I don't want it to be agent, whatever. So I go in there, and he goes in he'll state a fact, like this carrier has a very exclusive program. How does next Thursday at 2:00 work? I'm going to be in your area, right? Gets down to like a very specific time. Now that, full disclosure, I don't like that style at all, because it just doesn't fit me. And I don't like to feel like I'm backing people into like a corner out the gate. So that is not my style. And that's not something I would ever do. But it works for him. To take it a step further, you can look at openers, right? I'm a big fan now of just being more direct. I don't do the whole permission-based opener, but I know people who love the permission-based opener, and that's what they go with. I leaned on permission-based opener probably for like a solid 3 years. It helped me feel better. It helped me feel like I could make the calls. So use it if you want to. I'm just saying you don't have to, right? So don't get so caught up in like exactly what you're saying, but find something that allows you the ability to stay consistent. I mean, because that's really what everything comes down to. So you got to find something that allows you to stay consistent. But at the root cause of staying consistent, I think comes back to mindset, which is how I open this whole thing up. Because like this is we've all heard like, hey, discipline trumps motivation. I think we've heard that phrase, kind of thrown out there, eats motivation for breakfast, whatever. And I agree with that, because motivation comes and goes. We all know that. True. Just I could look at in 1 hour, I could feel like I'm top of the world, hungry as hell to get out there and, make cold calls. And then 20 minutes later, I'm like, oh man, my life sucks. My book's terrible. I got no new clients coming my way. And so motivation can kind of wean throughout the day. So that's why discipline is so important, which, as you guys know, if you followed us, and my plan for the discipline is, hey, 40 calls a day, right? Make the tally marks, make the check marks. That helps me have that discipline. So discipline trumps motivation, but I think mindset then trumps discipline, because you can also be so disciplined and you can make your calls, but there's also an aspect to life of like, hey, enjoy the ride, man. You can be so disciplined where you just burn yourself out and you're just miserable. Like you get home every day and you're like, I hate my life, and like yelling at the kids and a terrible husband or whatever. And so that's where I think the mindset, if you go into the mindset, right, the discipline isn't like something like you begrudgingly do, like being disciplined. It's something that you actually enjoy kind of doing. That leads kind of to the question, like, okay, well, what's the mindset, And for me, there's a couple things that I really liked when I first started. And in our course, we talk about the IDGAF, I don't give a F. And that's not to say like, I just don't care about people or anything. That's just more so like, I don't care about rejection. I don't care about rejection. I don't care what people think about me necessarily. Like, oh my God, what if they judge me? I'm just a cold caller and I'm calling some CEO, like that's what it does. That's what having that mindset. I just put a little sticky note would just kind of help keep that in my mind. To play off that, one of the things that popped up over the years was, and I put a LinkedIn post on this, but it's like, here's another thought for you. 99% of the people you call could not do what you do. Right. And you could change it. They could do what you do, but they either can't or they don't want to. Right. They're too afraid to, or whatever. So that alone should instill some pretty good kind of confidence. Like, man, okay, I'm doing something that not a lot of people can do. Maybe I can't crunch numbers or run a company, but I can generate new business. Right. And then, the last component of the mindset for me, and there's probably other stuff too, but the one that always sticks out is like, you've heard this again before, nothing new here, but who can I help today? Like, who out there needs help? I got to go find them. Like, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to look for people that they need help. And that's why you're calling people, just to have these conversations and see, hey, is there any problems that these people are having that I can help with? Or is there something different or new I can share with them that they're just unaware of that would maybe change their whole world, right? Change their whole life, their whole business. So those are just a couple mindset things, but I think having all those, having the right mindset is going to set up the tonality piece. But I'll let you chime in there if you have anything you want to add.
On the mindset thing, they kind of like juxtapositions, I think is the word, how you say it. But it's the selling versus sorting. When I'm calling, I'm not trying to convince anyone. We're looking for people who need help. Now, once you get really advanced in the cold calling, you get to the point to where you can create curiosity in somebody who's maybe not interested and then move the ball forward that way. But especially if you're just getting started in the cold calling game or you're not that good at it, there are people out there who will take a meeting with you if you just make enough calls to find somebody, because there are business owners out there in pain. So you don't have to convince anybody. You're just sorting the people who need help from the people who don't need help. And so that's always a good, that helps me overcome that fear of rejection and kind of get back into the thing. And then that also leads into, I heard this guy say this one time, you can deliver the same message, and depending on the state that person is in, you can deliver one message, and what the situation that you're in that's completely out of your control dictates whether they view you as an annoying pest or a welcome guest. And so, the thing that the guy's name's Dan Kennedy, he's like the OG of, digital marketing, online marketing, all that. And basically tells this story about he's sitting there on the phone and he's on an important call and he hears a knock on the door. And he's like, I'm on the phone. I don't have time for this. And he, looks through the window and he sees his neighbor, and it's his neighbor that he doesn't like. And then, he goes on talking, and then, 30 seconds later, he hears another rap on the door, and he like looks over out the window and he's like, I'm on the phone. And the guy's like waving him down, trying to get his attention. He turns his recliner around, stays on the call. And then the guy literally is like banging on the door, ringing the doorbell, and he gets up just completely irate that like, I'm going to come out here and knock this guy's, I'm going to come out here and knock his teeth in. And he walks out, he opens the door, and the neighbor goes, your backyard's on fire. Your backyard's on fire. And he goes, it went, in that moment, the guy went from a pest to a welcome guest because he was literally helping me, quote unquote, put out a fire that I was unaware of. I like thinking about that I may deliver the same message to 40 people and all of them are not interested in it, but I'm going to call somebody that just got a bad audit, or whose agent is not picking up the phone, or who's just, their cash flow is upside down and they're like, I've got to try to save wherever I can. And if I deliver, my message to that person, I'm in. And I just, I just have to sort through enough people to find that person who needs help.
Yeah, I like that story, man. Their environment determines if you're a pest or a guest. That's kind of like the mindset side of things. And I would add to that, just having the right mindset you might physically feel fear or anxiety when you're still calling, right? Fear is a physical, it's not even really a mental thing. So on that side of it, what I would honestly do is just get used to that feeling and just accept it, right? Like, and then it's going to become less and less, because it's like you realize that you have nothing to fear. There's not a lion out there chasing you. When you feel those sensations in your body of anxiety or tightening in your chest or whatever, as you're about to make calls, just accept it, right? Just be like, all right, I notice it, but I'm not going to try to get all like freaked out about it or try to fix it. Just accept it, man, and just keep doing what you got to do. And that will get less and less. And it's kind of like, the whole, what you resists persists, I think is the adage there.
Dang.
Nothing revolutionary there, but yeah. And that's very true within like fear and stuff like that, emotional side of things.
When you're talking about this fear and rejection and all this, like I just keep thinking about like the first tee box in golf, and like you step up there and you're like, I just hit 50 balls on the range with zero nerves. And now I step up in front. Like I played in a scramble last week, and I was playing with a bunch of like 20 handicaps, but I really wanted to play well because I knew I was the ringer on the team, which, side note, it's sad if I'm your ringer, but anyways. And like, I was like, I really want to play well because I need to, I want to show them that I'm good at golf, which is like, what a silly hook. And so I step up there and I'm literally nervous with a bunch of 20, 30 handicaps. I'm like, this is so stupid. This is like, why am I making this a thing? And so I say, it's like all these things, it's all in our head, and like feelings just they're real, but they're not real. Like, it's like
Yeah.
you just have to do it anyways. On the cold calling, one thing that I really like, if I've really got a lot of like reluctance to pick up the phone, I find that like greasing that groove with follow-ups really helps. So if I start my day with follow-up calls, making like I've got a follow-up with Jeff. We talked, 3 months ago, he's on my follow-up later list, and he wants a call back, right? So anything that's warm, or like, hey, I talked with Cindy last year, I'm gonna call her first, or I've tried Jeff 3 different times to get, a COI or policy, whatever. I'm gonna call him first. You get a couple of those warm calls, follow-ups, and then it just, for me anyways, that reluctance dissipates. So for me, I like to start the day with 4 or 5 follow-up calls. So that's what I got.
That's great, man. Grease the groove, baby. Okay, so now let's okay, so you got your mindset right. Maybe you're feeling fear, maybe you're not, but you're just like, all right, let's do this. Tonality, which I think is the next kind of pillar. So you got mindset, tonality. Man, for me, I'm a chameleon, right? I kind of adapt to who picks up the phone, and I try to mirror their energy and their style, right? I'm talking to an old lady or I'm going to talk differently than if I talk to a young contractor that's 27, right? Like out there on a cell phone. So it's like, it's just a different deal, and you have to be aware and be mindful of that. So that's where, like, again, you go to this call, and that's why I like to open with like a pause a lot of times. And I say there's power in the pause, but it's like, if I'm calling you, Trey, and I've never talked to you ever, and it's going to be, like say, yeah, hey, Trey. Yeah. Now, if he says, yeah, like aggressive, hey, man, Micah here, Christensen Group, pause, right? Again, I get a chance to just kind of read them a little bit more in that pause. And now sometimes when you pause, they don't say anything back, and it kind of can be a little awkward, and be like, then just let that time pass, that 1 or 2 seconds. It'll feel like an hour, but let it pass, and then just get into what you got to say. But again, this is another thing that comes up is, should I say, how are you doing? And all that, all that stuff. And again, it depends on the person. A lot of times I'll call people, I'd say, hey, Trey, hey, is this Trey? Yeah. Hey, what's up? How's it going? I get that a lot. Some people just immediately jump into that because that's just their nature. And so now it's like, oh, hey, man, I'm great. How are you doing? So I'll say that if they say it to me, but I'm not going to I don't lead with that. I don't say that. Now, if you do lead with that and that helps you make your calls, I'm not telling you not to stop doing it if it's working for you, but I think it's unnecessary. I think it's, I guess you'd say, a quote unquote crutch, which again, crutches, if they help you make your calls, stick to them, right? And maybe as you grow, develop, you don't need it. But again, it's just not a big deal to me. What is a big deal is just mirroring them and matching their energy level, how they talk, their speed, their cadence. I even add a little twang if I call some out in the country,
Oh God.
Not a hardcore twang, not a hardcore, but just a little bit, I don't know, just a little bit rougher on the edges sounding, or I'll talk a little bit more lax. So all that just depends on who I'm calling and how they sound when they pick up the phone. It seems to work pretty well. So I don't know. Have you ever, do you do any of that stuff when you're calling people, or you just kind of stick to like talk the same way all the time?
I kind of talk the same way all the time. And it's just kind of relaxed, just whatever. I kind of naturally talk with like a draw, or kind of maybe silly almost. And like some people find it off-putting, and some people it's like endearing. It's kind of like they just get kind of swept up in the conversation with you. I just am who I am, and it's like take it or leave it. And so I'm not disagreeing with you at all. I definitely think you definitely have like I guess I would, like when you said chameleon, you definitely have that Boy George vibe, like that definitely, it's your soundtrack.
Boy George.
I'm a chameleon. So I definitely think that encapsulates you and your vibe. And so I can see how you do that. But for me personally, I'm just kind of like, I'm just a big dumb ogre. I'm calling to see if you have any problems. If I can help you, great. If I can't, that's fine too. And it resonates, and some people it doesn't. So I've been listening to you on the phone. I feel like your approach, I definitely see why you book more meetings than I do, is because you kind of like talk wherever that person's at, and you kind of like mirror them. And mine's more like take it or leave it. And so I definitely, this is a long way of me saying I see why you book more meetings than I do, for sure.
I mean, and we haven't run, a test to see what works better, because there's a lot of professional sales trainer that it's like the low, it's that whole Chris Voss, FM DJ voice when you're making calls, and be very like monotone all the time. Hey, Trey, it's Micah. And even Justin Michael, who I'm a fan of on a lot of his sales stuff, he in his books a lot of times is more like the monotone when you call someone just be even keeled. And so when I mirror people, I guess that's the one. Yeah, that is the one area where I don't see a lot of sales professional trainers talking about that. It just has worked really well for me. But I think, and I don't know, maybe that came from my drop-in days. You know, you kind of got to acclimate to each climate. You know, you go into these different environments. Every office has a different vibe you're walking into. You just kind of act a little bit different, right? It doesn't mean you change who you are. You're just basically the way you say things is different, or the way you come across is a little bit different. So, but yeah, I mean, both styles work. So if you want to just be even keeled, steady, great for it, go for it. I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of people that say, don't be the chipper. Hey, this is Trey, you know, and I would probably
that annoys the shit out of me.
Yeah, I would really probably agree with that. So I said, if you're going to err on one side, err on like it. That's where I would err. If your natural personality is the gregarious guy, which that's not me, I don't know if that's you, but it's not me, then I would say just be very mindful of trying to tone it back a little bit, just because you might turn off a lot of buyers. And now maybe you listen and say, well, that's just me. That's who I am. Well, that's fine, you know. But hey, like the whole point of a conversation is, or the whole point of a cold call, in my point, is to have a conversation, right? Some will lead to meetings, some won't. Some will lead to follow-up calls. Some will lead to sales a year from now. You don't know, but just to get a conversation going. And so you don't want to turn someone off in the first 10 seconds by being super peppy and, you know, gregarious out the gates. Now, unless that person answers the phone, they're all chippy, then be chippy back with them, because there goes to my kind of mirroring philosophy. So yeah, I just like it because I feel like you can't lose with it. All right. So we talked about that. And then the last thing is the words, right? Back to the script. Like, what do you say? What do you not say? And man, I've found, and you probably agree with this, that like, because I've tried various scripts. I've tried the problem-oriented script. I've tried the, benefit-oriented script. I've tried the whatever. And I just feel like people are going to be resistant out the gate anyways. They're going to usually come out with an objection unless they have some pain and you catch them at the right time. And so I kind of got to this point where eventually it was like, no matter what I say, it doesn't seem to really, I'm not convincing people who are hard-nosed to say yes. And I'm not convincing, I'm not screwing up people that are saying, yeah, let's meet to not want to meet on the phone. So it's like, but there's those people in the middle. And that's where I think like, okay, how do you get some of those people to the yes, maybe, or just even call me back? Like, how do you, and that's where we talk about like extending the conversation a little bit. And I think the way to get those people, it's not about a magical script. I think it is about asking the right questions.
Curiosity.
Yeah. Creating some curiosity. And that's where I have fallen back on my due diligence script. And I like it because it kind of creates a little bit of curiosity. What do you mean by due diligence? This is what I'm talking about. Yeah. I mean, that's the goal, is to move some of those people in the center to kind of say yes, that they're kind of like, I'm on the fence, because you're never going to turn a hard no. You're not going to turn someone who's married to their agent. And now some people will throw out that objection though. And I've had them we get into a conversation. Like they come out right at the gate. Hey, I got an agent. They sound pretty confident with it. Like, I'm like, okay, but then you extend that conversation. Hey man, I get it. Like just out of curiosity, how'd you end up working with your agent? Like, how many years have you guys been working together? And like, what was the reason that you guys started to work together in the first place? And then they'll just start talking. And all of a sudden they talk, and then they ask you a question back. And all of a sudden, like, you look at the time, it's been like 5-10 minutes later. And then you get a meeting, or you like, actually, you know what? I might be open. Like, and so it's just funny how that works. So that's why I just like to extend the conversation a little bit beyond that first objection. Instead of just saying, okay, we'll see you later. Cause that's easy to do too, and some of it's gut feeling. If I really get the sense that someone's like hardcore loves their agent, I'm not going to just sit there and try to twist their arm to extend the conversation even. So
this kind of dovetails off that, like you're talking about finding those people in the middle. And I've told this story on this podcast before, but it's like my second year, I set the most meetings for like our young producers thing, but that's only like 60 in revenue. And so like I won like the activity award, but I didn't have the revenue to go with it. And some of it was because I didn't have the technical skill at the time, but a lot of it was like, I was really good. I can get meetings. But like how you get meetings really matters. And so I think a lot of people, you will be like, oh, get 2 meetings a week and you'll write X amount. And I kind of push back against that, is because if you get somebody that's reasonably good on the phone, you can get a lot of meetings, but how you set those meetings matter. And if you set those meetings with like curiosity and extending the conversation because they genuinely want to respond to what you're saying, that's one thing. That's good. But there's other ways, like for instance, a State Farm person called me yesterday and there's a script with something like, hey, this is Jenny with so-and-so. I'm here to save you a bunch of money. Who's your current carrier and when does it renew? And like, it was like this, she went from 0 to 60 so fast. Yeah. And I just said, not interested. So like I can get somebody on the phone and you can like kind of corner them like the whole like 2 o'clock or 4 o'clock. They may fold in the moment because they just don't like confrontation, and they'll be like, fine, they'll take a meeting with you. But there's like this subconscious or even conscious like resentment there that you sharked them, and you may get that meeting, but that meeting's not going to go anywhere because they know that they got cornered into it and they're just appeasing you. So like, just be careful of how you set meetings, because all meetings are not created equal.
That's a great point. Yeah, because I mean, you could throw out there, again, we talk a lot about trying to get it, do due diligence, or trying to get, obviously the goal for all of us, we love to get AORs if it's possible, right? So if you're setting up first meetings and it's all, and you find that like everyone gets in that first meeting, they're just expecting you to quote, or maybe that's all you've ever done. That's another thing. Like, be mindful. How are you setting up that meeting? Are you saying, hey, can I come on by and just, talk about quoting out your insurance? Or, you gotta be mindful of how you're setting that meeting up. On the flip side, don't blow a meeting just because someone says quote, we actually are thinking about getting quotes. Come on out.
Yeah.
And then you're like, well, no, I'm not too easy. Yeah. Well, but you could say, hey, I'm not trying to quote. I'm actually trying to do due diligence. But you're trying to get into that conversation, that first meeting. Just take the freaking meeting. Then when you show up to the meeting, then is when hey, let's talk about your bit. Let's take a step back before we jump into quoting. Yeah, tell me about your company. What's been your insurance experience? Awesome. Hey, what's your understanding of how the game kind of works? Like when you've gotten quotes in the past. Okay, well, hey man, there's an alternative approach that a lot of other contractors like you have been doing. It's been working really well. Instead of using multiple agents, they used one, but the question becomes, how do I pick that one agent? And that's where what I've done for people is due diligence. Here's how it works. Is that something you might be open to? And most are like, yeah, that makes so much more sense. Yeah, why wouldn't we do this? So, but you don't want to blow that opportunity just because you're so hell bent on disagreeing with them on a first call either. So anyways, it's
been there, done that. Guys and gals, if you're listening to this, I'm just going to give you a word of warning. You can listen to whoever you want to listen to. And Micah, it's not because I'm looking at you on Zoom. I'm not here to like stroke your ego. Just be real with those people listening. And I don't care if you buy our stuff or not. I talk to a lot of people that reach out and they have questions about, well, this guy says this, or this guy says to do that. And let me just boil this down for you very easily so that you can make smart decisions. There are a lot of people out there who are telling you how to do the thing. And if you will just do what Micah says, it gets so much easier. Micah writes in 1 year with some of these other guys who are out there selling masterminds and group code, then they sold in their entire career. Okay. Now, they're never going to tell you that because they don't want to tell you what they sold or what their book was or whatever, this, that, and the other. And a lot of these guys never even sold insurance, which is a whole nother mind, whatever. But like, Mike is in the trenches. He's doing the deal. If you will just do what he says, follow these 3 things, like master your tonality, get your mindset right, and like, don't obsess about the script. Just follow what he says. You will be successful. So you can chase your tail and do all these crazy different things and pivot from this guy to that guy and that guy. Micah writes in 1 year more than what those guys write in their entire career, most of them. So just do what he says. It works. So with that, again, shout out to Insurance Tech State. We appreciate you for being a sponsor. Love you guys. Newsletter out every Monday, the Max Revenue Letter, worth a read. Producer Playbook, Micah's step-by-step guide to building a book of business from scratch. Link in the show notes, and the link to Insurance X State to go check out their product is also in the show notes. And with that, let's sign off.
Adios.